Will Godon is on a trip through time. The Métis leader is tracing the steps of a notorious ancestor with a peculiar claim to fame. The journey brings him here to Fort Dufferin, a historic site along the Red River in southern Manitoba. Today it tells a glowing history of Canada's Mounties in their famed march west, but Godon isn't here for that.
The Northwest and Manitoba belong to Canada. Like, that is about as colonial speak as you can possibly get.
Instead, inside a 19th century shed turned into a museum, he stares up at a large axe, and that's why he's here. Fort Dufferin is where his great-uncle Gilbert Godon committed an infamous murder in 1873, making him Manitoba's first official outlaw.
There's no doubt he would have been in and around an area like this if he had his favorite bartender already scoped out.
Now, you won't find that history on any plaque, but here's how it all went down.
There was a brawl, there was a fight, there was a party.
Gilbert wasn't the guy you wanted to face in a bar fight. He was Métis from Minnesota, a stout 6'2" and strong as an ox. His posse arrived at the newly built fort in 1873 at an unlicensed tavern. But when they were refused drink, another Métis man, Benjamin Marchand, threatened and pushed the bartender, cueing the brawl. Gilbert defended the barkeep, so Marchand's son grabbed a shovel and banged Gilbert on the head. The Godon family then joined the fray, but things soon took a tragic turn.
During the scuffle, Gilbert apparently grabbed an axe and hit one of the Marchands over the head. Killed the guy. You don't know which end of the axe he used, but it was a murder.
After that fatal brawl here at Fort Dufferin, Gilbert fled across the border to North Dakota, but just 6 months later he was apprehended following yet another brawl. He was sent to Winnipeg, where he was sentenced to death. But he still had some friends, among them a bartender who intervened on his behalf. His sentence was commuted to 14 years in prison.
We trace that path north to Upper Fort Garry, another historic site in Winnipeg. It isn't far from where Gilbert was sentenced to hard labor on the chain gang, though that didn't last long.
He also knew what he was doing. He was got off of the chain somehow. And he was at Fort Garry, and he jumped in the river, swam across the river, and got away.
The jailbird flew south again from Winnipeg to Pembina in present-day North Dakota. That's where a band of armed lawmen came to arrest him in 1877, but Gilbert confronted them with a revolver in each hand. The lead constable hesitated, and in that instant, the convict's mom and sister-in-law jumped on the cop, allowing Gilbert to flee. After, you guessed it, another brawl 3 years later, he was finally captured and jailed in a building made of hewn oak logs. A bad idea when inmates are forced to cut wood all day for work.
One day, he was able to smuggle a saw blade into the jail cell. They cut a hole in the roof of the jail and snuck out, never to be heard from again.
For Godon, there is greater significance to Gilbert's story despite his life of crime. Strolling through Fort Garry, where Louis Riel seized power and helped usher Manitoba into Confederation in 1870, Godon says his distant relative is a tragic figure, but also a loyal one. A man whose defiance and independence the Métis Nation can relate to.
After Gilbert's second jailbreak, he was reportedly spotted at a camp along the Missouri River just 5 months later, but he was never seen nor heard from again in Canada, and so the ultimate fate of Manitoba's first official outlaw remains a mystery. I'm Brett Forster for CBC Indigenous in Fort Dufferin, Manitoba.